with us today on the podcast show, or not with us today because he just dropped his earphones, the almighty, powerful mind coach of celebrities and normal people, my favourite person in the world, Russell Treasure. Hello, Russell.
Welcome,
Hi.
Russell. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Obviously, mate, we've known each other for ages, and obviously what we need to do is tell everybody about you, and we're going to start off with some dark shit to start off with, right?
Okay.
So give me your background, how you've started out, tell everybody about where you were and how you have come to be.
Okay, I won't go back too far, about maybe 10 years. I was what most people would call fairly successful with all the toys, the cars, holidays, flying, motorsport.
All the gadgets, all the gear and
all
everything.
the toys, yeah, like living the dream.
Living the dream.
And when the financial crash came along,
Yeah.
I realised I didn't kind of have a plan B. So everything went, basically. Over a period of about 2 years, I lost everything. All the cars, the house.
Give me some examples of the cars you've got so people can know exactly how big time you was.
Don't be embarrassed. You made it. Tell us what you had.
It's only because you've said
I
it so
know,
many
yeah.
times to people, but
Yeah.
Well,
I did have this.
I used to have the choice of either an orange or a silver Lamborghini.
yeah,
Should I drive a soft top or a hard top today?
nice choice.
Oh, man, there's worst choices in the world to be faced with, isn't there?
A couple of Bentleys, Aston Martin,
I just
Lotuses.
want one of them in it. It's got a couple of Bentleys parked on the
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
Shall I take the Jag out today?
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to rain. I'll have the hard top. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we used them for the business as well, and I had loads of Lotuses. I'm a massive Lotus nut,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, okay.
And at racing, I had a couple of Lotus race cars. I was flying from Barton Aerodrome and going to Maldives on holiday and all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff, you know.
Stuff. You had stuff.
I had tons of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, in the background, I was always concerned about what if I lose it? You know, how do I keep hold of this stuff? And I was quite arrogant back then as well. You know, I used to wonder if people were watching me as I drove the Lamborghini and all that sort of stuff.
They were.
Which, yeah, maybe. But back then, it was a big ego boost.
Yeah.
But now, looking back, you know, it's not something I'm kind of proud of. But then, in sort of 2008, stuff started going wrong, and I
What
was
you talking? What kind of stuff's going wrong?
well. The business just basically stopped taking as much money in as we had. People
Yeah.
stopped using our services, and I think people were kind of keeping the money in their pocket.
Yeah.
And we suffered over a period of about 2 years. I tried to keep it going, and ultimately knowing really in the back of my mind that it was all going to go. And I knew that in 2008.
Are you talking like borrowing money?
Yeah, I mean, we
Friends, family?
borrowed money off friends and family and the bank and the credit cards. All my credit cards were maxed out. I owed millions, literally.
Millions?
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's always going to come a time when that comes to the end. You know, you can't keep doing that forever. But I used to think one day it'll become okay. You know, one day it'll work out. I'll keep going. I was drinking 2 bottles of red wine every night, starting on the 3rd.
Bad times.
You know, I was going to the doctor, and prescription meds, and in the end, I realised that I had to kind of just say, that's it, I can't do any more. And it culminated when I decided to take a walk down to the railway line and just to see. You know, I didn't make any serious attempts at taking my own life. I just wanted to go and see how I felt when I was down there.
Yeah. See what state of mind you were in.
Yeah.
If you put yourself in that position.
Yeah.
Right.
So I watched a few trains go by, realised that it wasn't something that I wanted to do right now, and went home. And shortly after that, I had a what people would have called back then a nervous breakdown, and I knew that was it. You know, the end had come.
Yeah.
I had to stop.
Something had to change.
Yeah, because everything was going. I'd already had notice that the cars were going to be repossessed in the house and all that sort of thing. So, that was the point, though, that when I look back, it's where my life started to change for the better, because I'd had all that pressure for 2 years, and that pressure was shared amongst friends and family. And in the end, when it finally all went, it's a massive sense of relief.
Yeah,
You know,
big weight off your shoulders type of thing.
Yeah. And you stood there just in the clothes that you've got on and no money in your pockets.
Is that all you got left?
Yeah.
You had to get rid of house.
The
Cars.
house was taken off
Where
us.
did you go then after you lost everything?
Well, fortunately for me, a friend of mine put me up. I was probably looking at going back and living with my dad.
Right.
Right, okay. Starting from the beginning.
Yeah.
But were you married at the time?
No. I was
just
in
had a girlfriend?
I was in a
Right.
partnership, yeah.
Right.
So a friend of mine took me in, and from that point on, even though I knew I still had a load of stuff to deal with, bankruptcy, debt collectors and all that sort of thing, at least then I was no longer fighting to keep hold of it. I was released from that battle. And it took, maybe 3 years before, because I went bankrupt in January, and it took maybe 3 years before I felt that, I could be okay again.
Really?
Yeah.
3 years?
Yeah.
What were you doing in them 3 years?
Well, I'd done a lot of motorsport, and a friend of mine had suggested, just to earn some money to put food on the table, that I could become an instructor because I held my race licence for so long.
Okay.
So I got an instructor's licence, and I started working at tracks like Alton Park and Donington Park and many, many other tracks around the country.
So people pay for a day out, and then you basically drive around in a Lambo or a Ferrari?
Yeah, I'd be sat next to them.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And teaching them how to drive
Right, cool.
the track. And it does sound really glamorous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sat in a Ferrari one day, a Lamborghini the next, or a race car or whatever.
Yeah, I know some friends who are car nuts who'd love going to that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
We get it for birthday presents and Christmas presents, like a day out
An
in a
instructor,
Lambo.
you're doing the same thing over and over
That's
again,
it.
footwork.
Exactly.
Well,
Round the same track, over and over again.
Same type of people coming in a car
It's like
every
in a
day.
fishbowl.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the kind of standing jokes amongst the guys was that so many people said to us, literally, you've got the best job in the world. But it's like any job. After a while, okay, it's exciting for the first few months. But after a while, it's a job.
Yeah.
And it sounds glamorous. But in the end, I knew that wasn't for me long term.
Yeah.
I knew that there was something else.
Right, so give us the next stage of your, I'm going to say journey.
Yeah,
Well,
so you'd gone through your 3 years. You'd started to just feel better. Where did we go from there?
Well, I always smile about this, but I bumped into a lady called Jenny when I was at the beginning of that 3 years, and it was about the time that I'd gone down to the railway, and she said to me, she looked at me in the eye and she said, you need to come and see me. She was like a coach.
Was this before the instructor?
Yeah.
Right.
So she ran a mindfulness class every Friday night in Stockton Heath near Warrington, and she said, you must come and see me, come and do this stuff.
How did you meet her?
I was at a business-to-business meeting,
Right, okay.
and I hadn't met her before. She looked me in the eye,
Yeah.
and she could tell that I was
In pain.
I was really in pain, mentally as well as physically. My body, she said I looked grey.
Really?
Sometimes you see people
you can see
who
the signs on
yeah.
your physical appearance.
That's right,
What,
yeah.
like your shoulders were hunched over?
Yeah, jaw clamped. So that your face looks old because you're holding all this tension in your face.
Okay.
So I started going down. On every Friday night, we had this fantastic sort of hour and a half just doing mindfulness and meditation and chatting. And, as I say, she was a kind of a coach, come counsellor. And there were quite a few of us used to go every week, 10, 15 people. And I realised at that time that I could be okay. Life could be okay again, and that I could release myself from all the guilt and...
Yeah, all
Guilt-
the stress
guilt's a
and
big one,
everything.
isn't it?
Yeah, you blame yourself. Well, at first, I've got to be honest, I blamed everybody else.
Did you?
It wasn't my fault at first.
A sign of denial.
Yeah, but after a few weeks, few months, I realised it was actually my responsibility. And it's only when really I got that I realised that I had to kind of move on and forgive everybody, including myself. And the mindfulness started kicking in, and I realised then that I could have this time, this peace of mind, even if it was just for 5 minutes. I could just stop my mind from worrying about the past and the future and concentrate on the present moment. And it was then that life really did start kind of improving. I did about 2-3 years of the instruction, but in the meantime, I'd started discussing this stuff with friends, the mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah.
Obviously, back then, like when you were doing this, like mindfulness is really unheard of. It's it's still classed as a bit of, we always say woo woo, don't we? It's a bit
woo-woo.
Yeah, there's certain connotations.
Back then, when you were doing it,
it's
it's a big stigma behind it.
Yeah.
Now, it's like getting a bit more accepted in it, which is
yeah, you're seeing it a lot more these days, aren't you? Accepted online and in the press, and you see celebrities and athletes, things like that, starting to come forward a little bit more. But it's still a big thing that still needs to get out there. Still people suffering in silence.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like if you look at yoga 10, 15 years ago, that was woo-woo. That was
true, that, isn't it? I never thought that.
No, that is literally everywhere. Yeah, like every man
a couple of celebrities do it, and the next thing
that's it, just takes off.
Yeah, so everybody you speak to either does yoga or knows somebody who does yoga.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks twice now when you mention it. And I think mindfulness is really getting to that stage now, because you get a call out of the blue from the police or a council or whatever, and you realise that nobody's scared to say the word mindfulness.
So let's go back to, like, obviously you've done the car thing, then you're in these mindful class, and you were doing, how long were you there before you thought, right, okay, it's, I can be all right here?
I mean, after I've been doing the instructing for about 3 years, I'd been obviously getting myself better at the mindfulness stuff, and I realised how much I loved it and how much it could help other people who'd been in my position. So, as I say, I was sort of practicing on friends, and we used to have a little bit of a gathering at home with my wife Carol. She used to where
did you meet Carol?
I actually met Carol at the mindfulness sessions.
Oh, did you? Amazing.
Fantastic. It's like a shared interest.
So we knew each other for maybe about 18 months. I'm going every Friday night, and obviously then we got together. So I realised it could help loads of people, and I thought, well, I've got to kind of, I'm not enjoying the instructing. It's just a way, a means to an end, putting money on the table. And started getting more into the mindfulness, more into that sort of mindset, where I thought I could actually teach this and help other people, because I believe that people who've been through a big event in their lives and come out the other end, they become the kind of people who can help others who are in that position. They become the teachers then. And that's where I found myself. So
just tell me, when you first started out, obviously doing your mindfulness with people, were you doing it for free to start off with?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't charge until you've got the piece of paper on the wall and the insurance. So you just start doing it for people and get a bit of feedback. And in general, with people coming back saying, "Wow, that's amazing what we've just done there." And we got a kind of a big break where Carol's business kind of got a nice kind of uplift in income.
All right.
And we had that chat. I said I'd love to do this full time. So we were at that time financially. We'd been struggling. She just started out with her business, and we got to a point where we said, okay, I can now retrain and start off doing this stuff on my own.
So how do you train then? How do you become a mind coach?
Yeah, how do you get that piece of paper on the wall? How does that happen?
Well, I would say that my biggest training was doing it. It was actually learning it through experience. So there's a little bit of a saying, it's an expert by experience.
Right.
An EB.
Yeah, never heard that before.
No, but you still can't kind of go out there and say to a council, I've got this qualification or that qualification. So I then went off and did a course with the Open College, and I got the certificate on the wall and got the insurance and all that sort of thing. And then I could actually start to go out there and be a proper business.
Yeah, practice what you preach type thing.
So
get people involved.
Do I know the story about how we met?
Yeah, it was
Business Growth Up, weren't it?
Yeah, it was
Nicola, weren't it?
Nicola Warwick. She said, "You've got to meet Tim Marner. You two will get on like a house on fire." And
how long ago was that?
That's over 2 years. It's maybe nearly 3 years. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, it's gone quick, that.
So if it's been 2 to 3 years since you guys met, what's the situation in terms of how long have you been doing this mindfulness then? So when did you graduate from college, for example?
I kind of started as a business in about 2014.
Right.
2013-14. It started small, like you do everybody at first. You know, you're only seeing the odd person or whatever. And then I got a really lucky break. A guy that I'd known for quite some time who worked at Wigan Warriors Rugby League Club got in touch with me and said, will you come and see the owner and the head coach? So I went along and did a session for them, and they loved it. But then that didn't work out, and then I got a call from Warrington Wolves Rugby League Club saying that I'd been recommended by Wigan, and it was great because a guy called Mick Farrell, who's a top man at Wigan, and they invited me in. I met all the players and started doing sessions for them. That was about maybe 4 seasons ago. So every week I would do a session of mindfulness with the team, you know, this full squad, and from that it kind of, you know, it just cascaded from there because they introduced me to their foundation.
Didn't they win the league that year as well?
They were involved in actually 3 potential, and they won the league. But they got into 2 other finals. Unfortunately,
they didn't win. Treasure, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't want to point any fingers. But I mean, he's one of them, really, innit? Yeah. What wasn't working before working now?
Well, what I did was I taught them how they could use mindfulness to sleep more. And one of the biggest issues with professional sports people is they struggle to sleep either just before a match or event and just after, because the minds are thinking forward or backwards and worrying about what have I done wrong, or, you know, how's it going to go. So as I say, from there I got introduced to a fantastic guy called James Howes at Warrington Wolves Foundation, which is a charitable arm, top man, and he invited me in to do some work with the staff, so I did that, and then he talked to Warrington Borough Council and so on and so forth, and over the last probably 3 years or so, maybe, you know, a little bit less, it seems to be like the word of mouth. And of course you guys did a fantastic branding job on me and got the website up and running and stuff, and that gives you credibility. And from there, really, my name's been passed around. I think I work with 5 or 6 councils now. Started with Widnes Vikings Rugby Club this season, and I've literally just come from Warrington Police, so
which is a big thing, isn't it? It's
a big thing, and, you know, like a lot of employers are starting to recognise the value of well-being. For the staff,
which is good. That there's not much of that these days. A lot of.
I think a lot of people play with the idea that they're going to look after the staff. But they never kind of see it through.
They never put the sessions on. They never have the conversations like, how are you today? Don't tell me how your work's going. Like, how are you? Like, are you okay? No, you don't get that anymore. Which is not the greatest anymore, to be honest.
No, and there is a potential for it to be a box ticking exercise. You know, we are providing this for our staff.
Agreed.
But they're not looking at the actual
results of what happens when they've ticked the box, when they've done the session. Because I guarantee you'd see differences, wouldn't you? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, it's just fantastic to see how, not in terms of figures and you know, reports and results, but I see that every time I see somebody in front of my eyes. I see the improvements. You know, it's just fantastic to see.
Just as a gauge, Ross, right? What is the worst condition you've ever seen, and the biggest change you've ever seen? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few. I've seen people, particularly on the. I'm involved in a program called Offload, which has been created by the Rugby League Cares charitable arm of the Rugby League. And we get guys come in there, and they literally come because it's the last resort. They've been through everything else. You know, they've been through all the NHS stuff, and they're literally at the end of the tether. And those are the people you see the biggest changes in, because they come in, they do a session of Offload, which is a fantastic 10-week program. And they come out the other end almost like a different person. You know, it's quite strange how just being able to sit there and talk and offload in front of a bunch of guys, and with a head coach, it might be myself, or it could be an ex-rugby player or ex-referee. And the changes there have been absolutely phenomenal. But I've seen people in the course of half an hour, if you teach them that, it's the mind doing it to them. So if somebody feels really down about an event in their life, you can teach them how they can become the master rather than let the mind drive their sort of emotional outcome. You can teach them how to turn that around and to observe events, observe the mind's thinking, and really take a different view on what's happened or what might happen.
Yeah.
It's just
I know that's
amazing.
one thing that I'd always said, that you, like the thing that you've taught me about, you know, when we're talking about the chimp paradox, has been a big thing about, you know, everybody's got this chimp inside, and I said it to a guy on my last podcast who went through anorexia nervosa, which is, you know, it's a horrible, like, mental disease, and it kind of rung home a few things it was saying about this thing inside of him being a bully, saying these things. And it's just, I think what's always come to me is, like, you can never get rid of him, but you can manage him. You know, when he says a certain thing, you can kind of go to yourself, you know what, no, I'm not going to think like that. This is how I want to do it.
Yeah, and I use the chimp paradox model quite a lot with people, because, you know, your chimp, you've got mine's called Charlie, and we've all got one.
Yeah.
You know, we can't get rid of it. It's what's enabled the human race to
What was the reason for naming him?
He just rolled off the tongue.
Yeah,
you know, it's not named after anybody.
Nice, actually. Done it? Is it? You actually
it's quite a deep thing. This chimp paradox.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've named it Charlie just takes the sinister side of it away.
It's a bit like Voldemort, isn't it? From Harry Potter.
Like,
nobody wants to say his name, but if you say it, it's actually don't come as scary.
Yeah, do you know what? It's just a thing. That. It's an entity. Yeah. It's a being. You can deal with a being. You can't deal with a ghost, something you can't touch. Yeah, but if you give something a name, it becomes more like a tangible object, like a tangible thing that you can deal with. Yeah. So, you know, you're saying it just rolls off a tongue, but to be honest, it's quite good. It's quite good.
I'm going to call mine Voldemort now.
And Charlie wants to, you know, it's the most strong part of your brain. It used to keep us alive if we're being hunted by a wild animal.
Yeah.
But the equivalent of that today is that something might go wrong in your life, and the chimp pops up and says, I need to protect you, because the chimp's all about helping you to survive and procreate.
Yeah.
So the simplest things now, you might be late, stuck in traffic, late for work, might lose my job, won't be able to buy food, pay my rent, I'm going to die. Whereas it used to be, there's a wild animal going to eat me, I'm going to die. So the chimp pops up and says, run or fight or flight. Yeah. And it tenses all your body up, and it gets you ready for action.
He's not reasonable, this fella,
no,
is he?
and you, as I say, you can't get rid of him. You've just got to say, listen, everything's okay. It's going to be okay. And mindfulness really helps you to put a space between what happens to you and how you react to what happens to you. So the emotional outcome can be different if you can just say, hang on, you know, Charlie, it's okay. Yeah. And Charlie pops back in then.
Yeah.
And you can then, the human part of your brain can say, right, what's the real, you know, being stuck in a traffic jam, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Pull to the side of the road, ring your boss, I'm going to be late, it's going to be all right. Yeah. Love that, mate.
Yeah, it's from a personal perspective, it's different than anything that I've seen before, or anything mindfulness or heard before, or anything like that. From a background that doesn't really deal with your issues. Something that happens, you just pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you move on.
Yeah.
So just since meeting you, Russell, and having a few conversations with you, and seeing everything that you're doing, especially with people like the police, and you know, hard, tough men that play rugby for a living.
Yeah.
It's just it's outstanding, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely mental.
Yeah.
I just think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I can't get on board with it enough. But even now, whilst doing this podcast, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, right, is everything working?
Yeah.
Is there some noise in the background that I'm not going to hear?
Yeah.
Anything like that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep cool. I'm trying to be like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get sacked. Do you know what I mean? I'm not gonna drop dead on the spot. So I'm just thinking, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to relax a little bit. So I understand completely what you're saying, and I just think a lot more people need to just check it out. A lot more people need to look into it more. Stop just, you know, posting the positive quotes on Instagram and Twitter and things like that. Everyone loves a positive quote, but take it further. Have a session, like, read up on it, check out the chimp paradox.
Yeah.
It's done me a favour. Tell you that for a fact.
Yeah, massive.
Absolutely done me a favour. So absolutely.
I think I was saying that Ben, who came on out the podcast last time, he said a nice phrase, and he said it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for people to understand that, you know what, I'm thinking a certain way, you know what, it's all right to feel a bit shit.
Yeah, just because you're having a conversation with someone who's like, what are you feeling like that for?
Yeah.
Just because they may not feel like that in this situation doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing for some people to realise is that...
I think one of the big things for me in this day and age, which annoys me a little bit, when another bloke goes to another bloke, oh, you need to man up, mate.
Yeah.
You need to get on with it. You need to man up and get on with it. And I don't think you can do that now.
You can't do that anymore. I understand some people.
It's too masculine, beat your chest, have a beer, you know, let's watch football.
Yeah, let's watch sport and hammer some drywall. Do you know what I mean?
Come on.
You're a person with
and I think
chemical emotions running about in your brain.
Because people have been like that, parents and stuff. I think, you know, obviously the people coming to your offload session have never really talked about it at all. All they've heard before is, man up, you'll be all right, mate. Get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for you to just listen to you.
Particularly in that sort of arena, say rugby, you mentioned, or the police or the forces, or where men are supposed to be men. You know, that's the real old-fashioned view.
Yeah, they're not supposed to show weakness.
No,
they're supposed to just be fine.
The human beings.
Yeah.
And we do see, like, there's a massive incidence of suicides in males, but not so much females. And most people think it's because females talk and they get it off the chest.
Yeah.
And what Offload's done is given the men an arena, a place to sit down and talk about what's going on in their lives, and we see guys breaking down.
Yeah.
And then a complete change. You know, it's just it's so great that guys can just sit there and offload.
Yeah.
And it does make huge changes. It's amazing.
I wish more people did it. I love people who can talk about like problems they've got and stuff. I just find it like endearing. I love people. Shit, I know it sounds really weird, but I love people with adversity who can sit down and go, look, I've had this crap happen to me in my life. And
real. They've been through some shit and come through the other side of it. It's just everyone loves a success story, don't they? But it's just there's something different about.
That's what you're saying about these, you know, the quotes you see on Instagram.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, people just put them up, but they've not been through any shit.
Yeah, like
quotes up and they just look. You don't even understand that quote you're doing.
Yeah,
it just sounds good. You want to look good. I'm just like,
you get, you know, people, you know, they just maybe having a bad day or something like that, and they put a quote up and everything, which is brilliant. That's a good way to express yourself if that's how you feel comfortable doing it. But then you just get some people who just, you know, just do it for the sake of doing it because they're just trying to get the likes, and it's just that's where the problem stems for me. Is people are doing it just to get noticed now, but then everyone who's doing it who don't want to be noticed but genuinely need some help don't want to come forward because they're worried they're going to get noticed, and that's a big thing. I wouldn't ask for help. I've been through some stuff, and I wouldn't ask for help. I got made to go. And it was the most awkward thing I've ever done, to be honest. And then, obviously, a few months ago, me and you, Russell, we had a few chats and everything like that. And since then, it's genuinely helped. And it's made me express myself a little bit more and thinking, you know what, I'm not actually bothered what people think.
Yeah.
You want to call me a wuss or anything like that, fine. I know I'll be a stronger person for discussing my issues and discussing what I'm feeling than you will be.
'Cause 8 Mile again, isn't it? It's 8 Mile.
Yeah, exactly.
You watched 8 Mile, Eminem?
No.
Right, mate. Eminem, the last battle, right, he just lays everything on the line. He just says, live in a trailer park, I am white trash, I am this, I am that. Puts it all on the line, and the guy battling with him had nothing to come back with him at.
Just
because you lay all your
shit
on the line and just like, this is me. No one can beat you.
Yeah, there is a kind of a new movement in business where you manage from a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
So the boss doesn't have to be, I'm strong, I've got no problems, I can deal with anything. The boss says, listen guys, I'm kind of going through some stuff myself at the moment and I need your help. Yeah. And it's been shown to actually have a better outcome because people pull together. They don't think that the boss is kind of he's untouchable. Yeah, exactly. So it's great that that's coming more and more into the kind of mainstream, because I think if you say to somebody, I need help, they want to help, and you're not putting a face on, there's no pretense, you're being kind of clear and transparent. So people, when they see people in that position, they want to help you, and so you get a better outcome from showing your vulnerability and being honest,
Yeah, I like that, mate. Right, Russ. So we're talking about office environments, people hiring you to go into offices doing mindfulness in councils. Let's talk about the council.
Yeah, sure. I was really lucky to be referred into Warrington Council about two years ago or so.
Just put the mic a bit closer to your mouth.
And we've started doing a class there every week. So we've been doing a weekly class every Tuesday at lunchtime. And it's open to any of the employees of the council.
How long for? Lunchtime, is it like
It's just about 3/4 of an hour.
Right.
So they come on the lunch break. And then what happens with councils is they kind of have a forum where they discuss various topics, and one of them's well-being. So my name got passed around, and now I'm working with, I think it's 5 or 6 councils, including Bolton, Wigan, and Trafford.
We're bigger and better, mate.
I was going to say, it's good. You keep saying this, that your name keeps getting bandied around, so obviously, something's going well. You're doing something right.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You know what? I think, let's go back to when we first met, when you told me your name. I was just like, motherfucker, I wish my name was Russell Treasure.
I know.
You know what I mean? It's
Russell
just
Treasure.
It's a
powerful name.
So when people do pass it around, as a brand, we were like, should we call it, Mind Coach or the Mind Coach, or you know what I mean?
Just
but
Russell Treasure. It just sits. It just sits well, doesn't it?
So as this name gets passed about, people are going, really, is that his name? It's it's a good thing, that, isn't it? Because it does suit you as a person as well.
Well, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. It does.
But I have to actually say at the beginning, it is my real name. Because I don't think people believe me.
Yeah. No.
It's your stage name.
Yeah.
Like
Candy.
Candy.
Like Sting. Like Prince.
Candy Lips.
Yeah. Chandelier.
Yeah, so you're going into these councils, and what's happening then? What's the certain shift with mindfulness? Why is people all of a sudden open to it?
Well, all employers have got a duty of care to look after their employees. So obviously,
councils have?
Yeah, councils, but it's more and more becoming clear that all employers need to make sure that their employees, they've got a duty of care to make sure that they feel okay, and the well-being side of it is getting really big now. So, as I say, I was really lucky to get my name passed around, and the odd private company and whatnot. But what happens is, as soon as people know that you're doing that sort of thing, then you suddenly find that schools and through the offload program, I'm going into prisons, United Utilities and Environment Agency and many schools, and I actually got a really lucky break last year. I got asked to speak to the annual conference of deputy head teachers in Warrington. So I was talking then effectively to 50 schools.
Yeah.
And I always do a bit of a session, just to show them what's possible.
Yeah.
And then from that you get work in schools, and like this week I've probably seen in excess of 300 5-year-olds, because they all came together in Warrington.
5-year-olds?
Yeah.
Amazing,
to do various exercises for their own well-being. So one of the exercises is mindfulness. So I had 10 or 11 classes of 30 kids, teaching them, how to relax. Because you'd be absolutely amazed. I don't remember being particularly stressed at 5-6 years old.
I can't say I do, to be honest. I mean, I was stressed if I had a crayon stuck up my nose or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're being bullied or something, obviously you're not going to be having a good time at school. I wasn't. But today it does seem like a lot. When I ask them who's worried about stuff at the moment, who's not sleeping, it seems like there's a very high proportion of 5, 6 up to, I mean, I teach up to 11 and then 17, 18, but the youngsters in particular are
that's upsetting, isn't it?
Struggling. It is, because it makes
what kind of things are they struggling with? Just give me a...
Yeah, do you get a lot of feedback?
It changes. Yeah, like a few months ago I did there's a school in Lymm, primary school.
Right.
And I asked them what it was that was bothering them. and they were talking about things like Donald Trump and nuclear war and all this sort of thing, alongside the usual things you would expect, like cyberbullying, not got the latest trainers or iPhone or whatever it might be. But this week it was more kind of general, people stressing about that bullying is one thing.
I can imagine that's a big one that people have got to overcome.
But the interesting, the correlation between how many of them have got devices, so iPads, phones, tablets, whatever, and they're being exposed to news and various other forms of bad, what you call bad news. And I think that's what's happening today, is that the youngsters are getting exposed to too much of this stuff, and they've got to learn about real life, obviously.
Yeah.
But at that age,
the Trump thing, a weird thing to be thinking about when you're 5.
Especially when you're 5. But I guess it's right. I mean, if you think on a daily basis when we're on our phones as adults, and obviously we are in our business, we're constantly checking up on this and that. Got to keep on a post with everything. And Russell, you're the same. You've got to get content out there. You're always speaking to someone. How many pop-ups must we get a day that we do ignore about? Or breaking news, Trump said this, or Kim Jong-un said that, schoolyard stuff.
A lot of stuff's trending, isn't it? Trump and stuff.
So if you think
if
you think of how often we come across it, why we really shouldn't be surprised that 5-year-olds who are now more clued up than some people of my generation and your guys' generation, in terms of technology and everything. We really shouldn't. We need to stop acting surprised that this is happening, because they're getting it just as much as we are. Yeah. And that is a massive problem, because they're growing up from 5 now, where the minds are that that ready to be moulded, and it's setting them off on the life ahead now. Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm shocked.
What do you do for something like that?
Yeah. How do you overcome that?
Well,
At 5.
I asked them who would be prepared not to look at their devices before they go to bed, and there was almost a mini riot. Right. There's no way they're going to give that up. So what I think we're doing now is we're creating a generation of people who can't do without the devices. Yeah. Now, how do you get around that? Well, obviously the parents have got to put, a part to play in this. But what I try to teach them, trying to get across, is that take a mental break from this stuff. Whenever you're feeling worried, do this. I've got some exercises I give them to relieve the tension that they're feeling physically and mentally. And they've got to kind of do this on a regular basis. It's okay seeing me, once, and they learn something and they feel better at that time. Yeah. But then they go away and they're probably not practicing it. So I try to encourage the teachers then, can you do 5 minutes a day? If I give you the tools, can you just do 5 minutes a day?
Right before they go home, for example, maybe, just to set them off for going home and go back on the Xbox, go back on the tablet. Can you just give them 5 minutes at 3 o'clock before you start telling them to pack up? Just wind down. I used to do that at 3 o'clock. Weren't even concentrating on what the teacher was saying. Just be thinking, 10 minutes, get me caught on, and there we go, get home, play in a box.
Yeah, and I'm teaching teachers. So what we really need to do is, I can't be everywhere, so we've got to teach the teachers and maybe the parents. So what I'm hoping is happening is that the kids are going home to say, no, we did mindfulness today. Yeah. And the parents are thinking, oh, what's that? And maybe they're getting interested in it. And the parents who come to my classes, come to Offload, certainly, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but certainly in Warrington and maybe Manchester, there is certainly a big upswell of people who have been exposed to the practice of mindfulness.
There's a shift, I think, isn't there?
I definitely think something's happening, definitely.
But what I like about what you were saying, the comparisons of like yoga, and then a couple of celebrities did yoga, and then all of a sudden it was cool.
All of a sudden
I feel that, Russell, you're going into councils and doing rugby players, and then all of a sudden it's cool to be mindful. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's a good thing, mate. Yeah. I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, well, everything's got to start somewhere. Yeah. And this stuff's been around for hundreds of years, It's been practiced by sort of Tibetan monks and that sort of thing. That's where it all came from in the first place. But now, I'm talking about it every single day that I'm out there. I was going to say work then, but I don't actually work. You know?
I've
not done a day's work for 5 years because I just love what I do.
Yeah.
So it's getting out there, and it starts small.
Yeah.
It starts spreading, and then like yoga, hopefully, in years, months, I don't know.
It's just gonna be
normal.
It's just gonna catch fire, and everyone's just gonna be like mindfulness is gonna be trending on Twitter, Facebook. Everyone's gonna be actually doing it.
But what's good is you've become the face of it. You know what I mean? It's almost like we got you at the perfect point as a trend, because like when we were first doing it, it was still a little bit woo-woo, wasn't it? And your target market was, spiritual events and stuff like that. All of a sudden, we've seen such a shift within 2-3 years that now, you go in councils, prisons, which is a big thing when you told me about that. Yeah. Obviously, are you allowed to talk about much?
Yeah, I mean, with the prisons and the police, I mean, particularly the police today, I said, is it okay to kind of put this out there on social media? And they said, yeah, no problem. We want the world to see that we're looking after our guys. And in the prisons, we can't take phones in and stuff like that. It's very, very kind of controlled for obvious reasons, and so, rightly so. But I can probably tell you that I go into a room of 10, 15, 20 guys who've, maybe been in prison for years. Yeah. They can't sleep. The minds are continually going. And you can imagine if you were stuck in if you're incarcerated in one place for years and years.
In a 4x4 pad with one window.
Your mind is going to be, pretty much rampant, really, in terms of thinking about what you've done. I wish you hadn't maybe done it differently, or thinking about the next few months or years that you've got to spend in this place. And when they get mindfulness, it's great to see. They all sit there. They all get engaged. And you could think, well, I'm going to walk into that room and they're just going to be laughing and saying, what the hell? Yeah. What's he on about?
It's good. This he's just getting me out myself for half an hour, 45 minutes, isn't it?
But they have been engaged, and I work in a few prisons around kind of Warrington and Manchester area now through the offload program, and we're delivering some really good stuff, some tools that they can use while while they are stuck in the cells. And
it's crazy that you go in talking from 5-year-olds to people who've been in prison for 20 years. There's just no end to the spectrum. That is literally 2 ends of the spectrum. Yeah,
it's nice.
That's how wide it is. Yeah, that's it. It's
because
nice
by helping the kids, they won't go into prison. But the people who haven't had that opportunity to be taught mindfulness, you're still kind of going, look, it's not too late. You can still. Don't have to think like, you don't have to be angry, you don't have to think this certain way, and it is just knowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, when you get out, you don't have to go back to your old ways in order to feel okay. You don't have to go back to knocking over post offices or corner shops or something like that. It's all right not to feel okay. You don't have to do it that way. Yeah, you can just control that inner chimp and move on, deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people have a complete change on their outlook. Yeah, what is possible in their lives if they practice. That's the key here. Yeah, if you practice it, and there are scientific studies out there, if you look on the internet, that say if you practice mindfulness on a regular basis, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, what happens is the plasticity of your brain enables you to make changes in how you think and what you do. So it's been proven that if you do practice it, you can change and your life changes. And I've seen people change in front of my eyes, so it's absolutely amazing. I've seen miracles right in front of my eyes. Yeah.
Just give me a few examples also of what we're talking about. So give me some ones that was like stuck to your mind. Obviously there's people out there that need help, and it's it's quite an easy change and stuff. But obviously there's some people that you kind of see a dramatic change that you think, right, okay.
This is why I do it. Yeah. That's why I'm here. That's why I give these lessons. That's why I'm giving people these tips.
I've seen people, obviously, I can't go into any detail, but I've seen people who've been crying and crying and crying in front of me, and then after a half an hour, and teach them a bit of mindfulness, get them to separate the mind off from what you're almost saying is, this is the mind. Try and put it to one side and observe it. See what it's doing to you. Give them a bit of relaxation. And one of the biggest changes is when you see somebody who's been so tense, crying all the time. Oh, that's all they do. They're just crying and saying there's no more hope. And what you're doing is saying, no, it can be okay. So I've seen people who've just lost their kids, or they've just had a relationship breakdown, drinking, committing crimes, completely desperate at their wit's end. And after just half an hour, I've seen them sort of have a different look on the face. And I think one of the main things that happens is they release the tension from the body. So we all hold tension in our body when we're in a perceived situation of say, danger or fear. And when they release all that tension and the body remembers what it's like to be relaxed. There's one particular guy, when you ask me that, who jumps to mind. And he'd just been through some really serious relationship stuff involving kids and the police and potential prison. And over the course of a few weeks, he's now changed. His situation's changed. So he's stopped drinking. He's no longer in danger of going to prison. He's seeing his kids again.
Seen that's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. You know, I probably, I don't know, I've got how many testimonials I've got, but you've got to remember it's not just me, and mindfulness isn't the panacea. It doesn't cure everything. There's other support in there as well. So on the offload program, for example, they see 9 other guys on a weekly basis, so one different lesson every week. And you learn about resilience. And you mentioned it before, it's okay not to be okay, and things like that. So these people are going through a series of, let's call it treatments or lessons, and after they've learned all that and put it into practice, massive changes are possible. And I can say for sure, in front of my own eyes, I've seen hundreds of people come out as a different person after they've been through, say, an offload session or a class or a one-to-one with me. Just amazing.
So, obviously, what we need to do is, again, up your game a little bit. You need to be doing your own podcast. You need to be doing, we need to update your website a bit more. We need to keep doing it. For the people that don't know about you, how can they find you? What are you on Instagram?
Yeah, Russell Treasure.
On Instagram.
On Instagram, Twitter, Russell Treasure.
Yeah.
Facebook, I've got a Facebook page, Russell Treasure.
Yeah.
And I also run a couple of groups. So we've got a mindfulness class in Warrington. So that's Mindfulness with Russell Treasure. So website, again, .co.uk.
Yeah.
My name, as you say, it's quite unique. So if people just search Russell Treasure, I don't think anybody else comes up.
Yeah.
And there's loads of info on there about when the classes are and how to contact me.
Yeah.
So,
So where would you say people to go then to actually message you? Could they come on Facebook and message you direct?
Yeah, probably Facebook's the best place.
So Facebook's the easiest, but they can find you on every platform should you need to. Russell, just one thing. If you could offer one piece of advice, just off the cuff right now, it's not staged or anything like that, what would you say? So to anyone listening now who's when we put this out, to anyone listening now who's just having a tough time, who's thinking, I don't really know what I'm going to manage, I can't wait to get home and open that bottle of wine. What would you say? Just, in a couple of lines, just what would you say?
Well, mindfulness is all about distracting the mind
from
thinking about the past and the future. So the exercise is quite simple. It's just remembering to do it. You listen to your breathing. You feel your stomach rise and fall. You've got to give your mind 2 things to do to stop it from worrying about the past and the future. But the one thing that has the biggest effect, I look people in the eye and I say, one day it's going to be okay. And the amount of people who just break down, burst into tears, they just need to hear it's going to be okay. And that one sentence very often changes things for people.
Yeah.
But the practice of mindfulness is obviously really important to keep that going.
Good.
Russell Treasure, as always, it's been a pleasure, Treasure.
Yeah, Russell, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Bringing some well-needed mindfulness to the nation, to all our listeners.
We'll put some links in the YouTube bio about where you can download. So
you can get through
to the paradox.
Yep.
You can get through to Russell. We'll probably put his number as well in there, but number's probably best. You're getting that busy now.
Yeah.
Contact you on Facebook. Russell, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Russell. We appreciate all your time.
And you'll be coming on again in about a year, and we're going right. What have you done now? And then you're just like, well,
I've been abroad this time.
Yeah, I'm sitting on a throne in Dubai doing mindfulness,
teaching princes and kings and queens.
But for now, thank you, my friend.
Appreciate that, Russell.
Adios.
And thank you, guys.
Bye.